This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, REL-MAR McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, it is studio@xzoneradiotv.com on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And our website, where you can find out what we've done in the past, what we're doing today, what we intend on doing in the future, as well as listening to our archives, www.xzoneradiotv.com. You know, my next guest says, you know what, it's okay to die. Estate planning expert and author of The General's Briefer is our guest this hour, Bob Woolsey. Death can be a lot easier on all that are involved, only if you're prepared. Are you? Well, my wife and I are. It's a fact of life that we're all going to die at some point. In fact, the moment we are conceived is the moment we start to die. Now, while it's not something you'll probably want to think about, you can make things a lot easier on yourself and your family if you get everything in order now. Joining me to help us get a better understanding of what we should do and how it can better leave everyone after we all depart is Bob Woolsey. And he is a nationally known attorney, former law school scholar at the University of Virginia Law School, former U.S. Army intelligence captain and briefing officer to the General Staff at the Pentagon. He's an estate planning expert, and he's also the top-selling author of Husband in Waiting and The General's Briefer, which he describes his life at the Pentagon. And joining me now is Bob Woolsey. And Bob, welcome back to the X-Zone.
Okay, nice to be here.
Bob, you know, how many people really have no concept of what they need to do and, in your opinion, are ill-prepared for that day when we kick the bucket?
I think there are a lot of people that don't have any idea what's going to happen in their money. Most people don't have enough money to worry about any taxes or estate planning. And if you were in a bracket, well, it used to be a little more lucrative for estate planning attorneys when the exemptions weren't as high.
Right.
Right now, a married couple can have like $11 million in exemptions. So it means that there is not going to be any federal estate tax. There is, however, going to be a state estate tax usually. It's not going to be as bad. But most people don't have any idea of what they can do. There are a lot of things that people can do who don't have zillions of dollars. One is to create a power of attorney. It's a simple instrument. It takes 20 minutes, and it just enables somebody you appoint, maybe your wife or your child, to handle your financial matters. So if you get into a coma or you're incapacitated for a while, they can withdraw money from your bank account and pay your bills and do just about anything they want. And then there's another thing called a living will, which doesn't take care of your financial matters, but it takes care of your physical matters. So if you're in a hospital, you want to decide, it's hard to talk about, but you want to decide that when you can pull the plug. And, if you're in your 70s or your 80s and you're in a coma, you don't want to, the quality of life is not what it used to be, so you have to sort of realize that, if two doctors testify under oath that you're not going to recover, you want to have somebody who says, well, this guy's had a full life and it's about time we let him go. And that's the purpose of a living will. So these two things, power of attorney and a living will, are two documents that I would recommend to everybody. A will is, it's important in one way.
All right, we're going to have a little bit of a cliffhanger here because I do have to take my break. Please stand by, Bob.
Sure.
Exo Nation, Bob Woolsey is our special guest. And we're talking to Bob about wills. We're talking to Bob about, you heard him talking about a living will. His website, his books are available at Amazon.com, Husband-Waiting and Generals-Briefer. Our guest says, it's okay to die. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast network in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com.
Shamanism is recognized as a method to access the quantum level. Mastery of shamanic skills puts spiritual information and healing power into your hands. Path Home Shamanic Art School, a bonded Colorado certified occupational school, has met rigorous state standards, ensuring its director and instructors have the qualifications to teach the shamanic arts. Path Home offers its certification program in blocks of study. Block 1, a 5-day intensive, will be held in the beautiful mountain town of Coaldale, Colorado, October 13th through 18th. Registration deadline is September 12th. Experience Journey Trance, Power Animals, Helping Spirits, Sacred Space, and Life Purpose. Come discover your power. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, in the magical world of shamanism. Call 303-775-3431 or visit findyourpathhome.com.
You know, Exo Nation, it's always a good idea to be prepared no matter what life throws at you. We need to be prepared. And, you know, as parents, I think one of our most important things that we have to do is take a look at our lives and say, all right, what do we want our family to do when we pass? Who does what? When? Where? Do I want to be buried? Do I want to be cremated? Do I want to be buried with my wife? Do I want to be buried with my children? There are so many questions that we need to ask. And at the time when a family is at their most vulnerable, they're grieving for the loss of one of their family members, many times their grief is complicated because the family member who passed didn't have everything in order. There is no living will. There is no will. You know, nobody knows what the person wanted. And Bob, in my opinion, your job is a very important job because you help teach people how to put their final wishes in order.
Yeah, well, the word "final" is. I mean, you can have a will when you're 30 years old. Mm-hmm. It's good forever, and of course things change. You know, we have a child and things, but usually when you're 50 or 55, your life is pretty well established, and you can have a will. The important thing about a will is, I used to tell my clients, is that you can require that there be no bond that be posted. If you don't have a will, the bonding companies like this because they can charge the estate a certain amount of money per year, and the only thing that the bonding company has to worry about is that the administrator, who is the person appointed, doesn't run away to Mexico with all the money. Well, it happens once in a zillion times, but so that there's one thing you can have. You can assure that there's no bond that's posted. And the second thing is you can appoint your own executor. You can just decide who's going to take care of your affairs after you're gone. And the will, as I said, is something that is good until you tear it up or revoke it or you have another will. But it's something that lasts for forever. But there are other things that, besides the will, as I mentioned, the power of attorney, which is a very important thing. You can make sure that there's somebody around in case you get into a car, go someplace, and you get into an accident. You might be laid up, and for a long time. Nobody's around to handle your financial matters. And one thing you do not want to have is anybody going to the courthouse to try to have the legal authorities appoint somebody to take care of your own matters. So a power of attorney is a good idea, and a living will is also a good idea. As I said, it tells people when you can pull the plug, and you have control over your state of health.
What happens if somebody passes and there is no will?
If there's no will, then you go into something called administration. You go down to the circuits court. I guess it's the same thing in Canada. And you present the death certificate, and you say, usually if it's the spouse or one of the children, and they say, we have a father. I'm saying father, to be mother.
Sure.
So we have a father here. He died and didn't leave a will. What do I do? So they'll say, well, does anybody here want to be administrator? And the wife will say, yeah, I'll be administrator. So she signs a document. That way she's an administrator. She has to pay a bond to the bonding company, I don't know, a couple $100 a year. And she's issued what they call letters of administration. And she can act just as an executor does. She doesn't have to have any supervision. just that she's not appointed by you. And if the whole family agrees that the spouse, the executor, that's fine. Sometimes there's a little friction there. If there is no spouse, maybe you have two brothers, two sisters, three people. There can only be one administrator appointed. So it might cause more problems than you would otherwise. If you have three kids and they're all in their 30s, let's say, and they all want to be administrator, then you have a family problem, which could easily have been avoided if you'd had a small one-page will that appoints one of them as executor.
Does the will, in order to be a legal document, does it have to be filed in the court?
No. People have sometimes they say you file a will, but a will is only effective when at the date of death. So if you file a will in the court, say January 1st, 2016, and you decide, I don't like this will on February 1st, 2016, you write up another will, I revoke all of the wills, and that first will you filed, in most jurisdictions, I would believe is no good. It's filed, but it doesn't make any difference because you've already made another will. So we were hereby,
right.
Legalese, revoking all other wills and codicils heretofore by me made. So that will you filed is null and void. So you got this new will that comes in. So filing, I don't see any advantage to it. Since you can change your will, and the will is only effective at the date of death.
Right.
I don't see why people file it.
But if somebody was to write up a will, put it in a tin can or where they keep their valuables at home, at the time of passing, somebody finds that will, they look at it and they say, well, no, there's got to be another will after this. I know there was. He was talking or she was talking to me about it. How does that person stop the will that has been found from being
You give a reasonable period of time, let's say 30 days or 60 days. I guess the surrogate or the judge in charge of it says, all right, we'll give him 60 days to try to find that will. If not, this is the only will we've got. And I don't care if he said he wrote a will, unless you can find a written piece of paper, this is the will we've got. So we're going to have to deal with this. And so you probate that will, and then the executor takes over, and then the search for will number one, or the will that's supposedly out there somewhere, is abandoned, and you've got this other will to think about. But you've only got one. The will that's in writing is the will that counts, and that's the one that's going to be probated. And there's one other thing that they've had in the last 20 years or 30 years. It's called a self-proving will. I mean, if you make a will when you're 50 years old or 60, and you've got witnesses, and they move out to Colorado or Florida somewhere, you can't find them. So if you have a self-proving will, these witnesses swear before notary public that you signed the will, and the will is self-proving. So all you have to do, you don't have to go down to the courthouse with your witnesses. All you do is you go down there with the death certificate and a few dollars to pay for the administration fee, and the will proves itself. And that's why I always recommend what they call a self-proving will. I think most states or most jurisdictions have it now.
In order for the will to be illegal, does it have to be witnessed?
Yes, there's a Uniform Will Act. There used to be a long time ago that some states required. I think Connecticut might have required 3 witnesses. But I think now, if you've got 2 witnesses who sign the will, you sign it before them. Here's where you have the law school problem: who's got to be in the room, who's in the outside. But if the rule of thumb is that if the executor, the person who's going to die, signs the will in front of 2 people, and they say, I swear the man signed it in front of us, and I witnessed it in front of witness number 2, and witness number 2 signs it, and I witnessed the testator signing it, and I witnessed the other witness. That's a good will. I mean, that's a will that's fine. It's just that it's not self-proving.
Sure.
Self-proving means that the witnesses, again, you have to, the legal system is a strange creature. The witnesses sign, you sign, then the witnesses sign. Then you go around where you say that I swear that I saw this person sign. So you've got this under oath. So you've got the two people who are the witnesses who sign under oath that they saw this test data or test date strips sign. And then that's ironbound. That means you can take this into any court, and you don't have to worry about locating with the witnesses. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you can't even read what their signature was. But if you take this down after the person died, to the courthouse with the death certificate and the fee for letters testamentary, that should do it.
Years ago, video wills were very popular. How legal is a video will?
I have never for a long time, I've never seen a video will probated. I think, courts are very, very slow to change. I don't know how you'd go about proving a video will. I don't think that there's any statute that it also depends upon the jurisdiction. Maybe out in California somewhere they have a law that says if you've got a video will and you've got these two witnesses who appear on, in the old days usually VHSs, but now it's on a DVD. Maybe they've changed. Maybe you can have a video will. That, as I said, yeah. I've never seen it used, and I don't know if the courts are slow to change. I mean, they still have the courts don't realize that you can put 10,000 pages of testimony on a disc. So you go down to the appellate division of any courthouse, and you'll see these guys carting around 20 copies of a trial testimony on a big cart, and it must weigh 500 pounds. Whereas you can get this whole thing on a disc somewhere. So I don't know about that. I have never seen a video will. I don't know how they would probate it. Maybe they would transcribe it.
Like I said, they were really popular 5, 6, 7 years ago. But ever since then, I really haven't heard of any or any companies that were doing it. Stand by. You and I have to take a break, Bob. Exo Nation Bob Woolsey is our special guest. He is a nationally known attorney, fluent in Italian and German, former law scholar at the University of Virginia Law School, former U.S. Army intelligence captain, and we're going to be speaking to Bob about his stint as a U.S. Army intelligence captain on the other side of this break. And if you'd like to find out more about Bob, if you'd like to get a copy of his book, the book we're talking about right now, www.amazon.com/husband-waiting. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and I have a very simple question for you people out there in Radioland. How would you like to be part of UFO history? No, I'm not kidding. I'm very serious. If you do, all you need to do is go to www.cubesatfordisclosure.com. That's www.cubesatfordisclosure.com. In the summer of 2017, a rocket is going to be launching a satellite into a close Earth orbit. And the mission of that satellite, by the way, whose name is Disclosure, is to look for UFOs in low Earth orbit. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in beautiful Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Exonation, Bob Woolsey is our special guest this hour. Very interesting. It's a topic that people do not like to talk about, and yet, in my opinion, it is one of the most important things that every family should have, and that is a will. The directions, the last will and testament of you hopefully before you pass, you do this. You protect it's a way of protecting your family. It's a way of protecting your last requests. Because once you're not here, you can't talk for yourself. And then we talked about a living will. We talked about probate. And Bob, what happens if somebody wants to disagree about what's in the will, and they say, I'd like to contest this? How does the court take a look at what the person is wanting to contest, and who makes the final decision as to the resolution of the will once it's being contested?
Well, often in a will, you've got what they call an inter terrorum clause. It means that if anybody wants to contest this will, they don't get anything. Well, that's why if you don't get anything under the will, you've got nothing to lose. But if you're a child and say you don't get along with your dad or your mother too well, it's always wise, in my opinion, to leave them something, because if you leave them, say you've got a pretty healthy estate, if you leave them $100,000, which is pretty good amount,
pretty good, yeah.
He's got it in the back of his mind or her mind. He's got to think, well, if I contest this will and I lose that $100,000.
Ah.
So there's no reason, there's a reason why I shouldn't contest this, because if I lose, I lose $100,000. However, if you don't lose, if you don't get mentioned at all, if you cut out with a buck, sure, you go in and you contest the will. Contesting a will is usually pretty fruitless. It's just that it causes aggravation to the people who want to get the whole thing over with. So if people go in and they contest, and we've had a couple of those, and what we wound up doing was settling. You've got the 3 kids and the guy he's married, and the wife dies, and he marries somebody who's a good-looking woman, and she's in her 30s, and he leaves everything to her. So the 3 kids, say they don't receive anything. They go in and they contest the will. They file objections to it, and they normally with the person, if there's enough money involved, the beneficiary will say, "Well, look, I don't want to go through this hassle. What do they want?" And the attorney on the other side, who's probably set up getting his fee by way of contingency, say a third. So he gets these kids $100,000 apiece. We're talking about a pretty hefty estate here. So he gets them $100,000 apiece, and out of that he makes a third, let's say $33,000 for each one. They get some money. The beneficiary, who's this younger woman who's probably going to go out in the next week or so and find somebody else, she goes out and she the whole thing is taken care of. The objections were withdrawn, the will is probated, and everybody lives happily ever after.
But what about the cases where we've heard about in the media where a person has died, left all the estate to an animal, and leaving nothing to the humans?
Yeah, well, you have. In that case, what the court would do is you can't leave it, because it's not because the poor animal is an animal. The animal cannot think, and you've got to leave the money to a rational being. So what the court will do is they'll set up a trust. Mm-hmm. So we say we're going to call this the Fido Trust, and there you've got the court will appoint a trustee who's probably a lawyer, and he says, and he's got authority to act on this trust. So the say it's $1 million to the guy's doggy. So this is left to the trust, the Fido Trust, and it's administered. And then the guy goes out, he buys dog food, and usually in a trust, I leave the money to my dog. After my dog passes, the money goes to a charity, something like that. So the dog or the pet would not get anything.
Right.
However, the trustee would make sure that the dog was taken care of, was fed, and got a fairly decent home. But you cannot leave money to an animal as such, not because it's an animal, but because it is not rational.
Gotcha.
You can't think for itself.
All right, Exo Nation, all this information and much more is available in Bob's book entitled Husband in Waiting, and it's available at amazon.com/husband-waiting. Now, Bob, I'd like to take you back in time to the time when you were a U.S. Army intelligence captain and briefing officer to the General Staff at the Pentagon. And you talk about this in your other book, The General's Briefer. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's my latest book. That was sort of a mini autobiography. Mm-hmm. I spent 2 years at the Pentagon, a long time ago. And I was a terrible soldier. I had to go through. I tell this all in the book, and it's pretty funny. And I couldn't shoot a target or climb a rope or swim underwater. And I was a terrible soldier. But fortunately, I got appointed at the end to serve as a briefing officer to the head of Army Intelligence at the Pentagon. It was just a stroke of luck. The only bad thing about it was I had to go to get in very early in the morning because we had to have a briefing ready for him at 7:15 to be presented at 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
But that was an easy. Aside from the hours, I had the alarm set at 4:00, 4:30 every morning. I'd go in and I'd park the car. I'd give the briefing to a fellow named General McChristian, who was the head of Army Intelligence. Then I'd give it to the head of operations, who was a 3-star general, at 8:00. And by that time, the day, for all practical purposes, was over. We came back. We talked to the colonel, who was in charge of the outfit. Tell him what briefing went well, no questions. And it was, the 2 years that I had, the Army's very good on vacation, so I had 2 years, 8 weeks vacation. So the Army's pretty good on that. And that's the book that I'm the proudest of. The Husband Waiting was a book that I wrote a long time ago. It's pure fantasy. But this General's Briefer is a funny book. It's about people that I met while I was in the Army, and other things that have nothing to do with really the boring day-to-day Pentagon matters, because the briefing usually started off with certain elements of the North Vietnamese Army were located somewhere, and this is enough to every day is the same thing. And every so often you'd have an interesting thing, like there was a war in Czechoslovakia, and that was interesting for a while. And then we had a war in Central America. But it's I don't know. I tell about some interesting characters I met there, and I was even good enough. The general liked me. I was even good enough to get myself a medal at the end of my Army, my 2-year service at the Pentagon, and I like the book, and I think that I think that the public will like it, but it takes place in a period that's very similar to the one we have now. We had in those days we had 2 unpopular presidential candidates. We were involved in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew who we were fighting. We knew that the Israelis were sort of good guys, but we had allies there that hated the Israelis. We had the Saudis, who were our allies, or I should say partners, and because Afghanistan hadn't come into the picture yet. But the Middle East was still a problem, and we, as always, we were disliked just about everywhere. And I don't know. I managed to get through it with not too much difficulty. And the Army, they gave you free flights to Europe,
right?
Because it wasn't on a first class with the 2-inch cocktails, but it was a cargo plane. It got you there, and you could. In those days, the dollar was a lot more strong than it is now. And so you'd go over there, and you could take a train ride down to Spain, and use a lot of your vacation time, not having to pay for any of the transportation.
Looking at the world today, having been in the Pentagon, having been working with Army intelligence, what do you make of the world? You mentioned North Korea. Look what's happening now in North Korea. You mentioned the Middle East.
The North Koreans, there's a lot of bluster there, but one consolation we can take is that the North Koreans are ruled by somebody who's, I think he's crazy. I just don't. He's someone that what did he claim? He got 99% of the vote or something like that. But North Korea doesn't pose that much of a danger, because I don't think that they have the weaponry that we have to fear. I think that everybody in North Korea would probably be starving to death if it wasn't for the fact that the Chinese were sending them food all the time, and so they do exist. But the North Koreans, I would classify as something to. It's a sort of a worry, but not too serious. The serious problems, of course, are in the Middle East. So you've got places like Iran, and you've got ISIS, which is all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as simple as it used to be. It was fine for the Army and the Navy in 40, 50 years ago to draw the lines. You knew where the enemy was, and you'd go across the Rhine River. You've got your tanks, and the object of the Army or the Navy was to go in, locate the enemy, and destroy him. We did that very successfully in World War II. We didn't do it successfully in Vietnam. And the Middle East is, when we had a war in Iraq, maybe 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, and that war in terms of defeating the enemy was a complete success. I mean, we overran the Iraqis in a matter of weeks. Mm-hmm. Of course, we had the political problems that ensued after that. We didn't realize that the Iraqi government that came in would be very friendly with the Iranian government. And the Iraqi government quietly told us to get out. And so because they are Shiites, and they are in the middle of a bunch of Muslims called Sunnis.
Right.
So the only Shiites are around are in Iraq and in Iran. So the Iraqis and the Iranians, despite the fact they had a war about 20 years ago, are religiously affiliated, and this doesn't sit too well with us because we're not too friendly. We shouldn't be too friendly with people who are buddies with the people that we've been at war with the last 40 years.
All right, Bob, please stand by. We've got to take our final break for this hour. Exonation. Bob Woolsey is our special guest. Amazon.com/generals-briefer. Here's the book we're talking about this half of the show. I'll be back on the other side with Bob Woolsey. Don't go away.
As host of Dialogue with Divinity, I am thrilled to join the X-Zone Broadcast Network and their growing number of affiliates. My quest for a connection to the divine ignited my successful career path as an international spiritual counselor for over 40 years, an author of 4 books, and well-known metaphysical educator. My clients call me their spiritual mama. So my job is to offer you a radio show to help you grow spiritually with wisdom and get specific tools from guests who are experts in their field. Tune in to Dialogue with Divinity and be part of the conversation with Spirit. My goal, your happy soul. For more information, please visit my website at johannacarroll.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Coming soon to the X-Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who would like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. This is Kevin Randle. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com.
What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold.
Exonation Bob Woolsey is our special guest of this hour. In the first part of the show, we were talking about wills. We were talking about power of attorneys. We were talking about probate. Bob is a nationally known attorney. He is fluent in Italian and German, former law scholar at University of Virginia Law School. He is an estate planning expert, and he is also a former Army intelligence captain and briefing officer to the General Staff at the Pentagon. Bob, I'm sure intelligence operations and intelligence surveillance certainly has changed with all the technological advances that have happened over the last 15, 20 years. How different is intelligence gathering compared to what it was 5, 6, 7 years ago with all the drones, the satellite surveillance, and the war against ISIS?
Well, we've had ISIS is something new, but we've always had the the satellite surveillance, we had those. Even when I was there, we had great satellite surveillance. We could spot a football at say 20 miles up in the air. All the satellite surveillance didn't do as much good in Vietnam because of all the foliage. But we had our moles. I didn't know who they were, but there were people at the Kremlin that, for money, would give us information about what was going on in Eastern Europe. They let us down quite a bit when the Soviet Union and their allies invaded Czechoslovakia, but we had those. And we had radio intercepts. That was a good piece of our information. So we had satellite photography, and we had intercepts, radio intercepts, and we had people on the ground who were working to feed us information. And we got a lot of intelligence from the Israelis. The Israelis had a very good intelligence organization, and they knew just about everything was going on in the Middle East.
That's the Mossad, right?
Pardon me?
The Mossad?
Yes, Mossad. Yes, right. They had a great organization because they were working for survival. We had a good intelligence organization, and we had a lot of, as I said, we had the satellites going around, taking pictures of all the troop movements, and we had things that, say for example, the most classified of the documents or intelligence was, pardon my cough, top secret Umbra, which meant that it was a radio intercept. And radio intercepts were a specialized form of intelligence, and it wasn't a James Bond type of thing where he goes in and he gets the microphone from somewhere and he gets it to his intelligence chief. These were actually intercepts between forces or people in the military in different countries. It was a very valuable way of getting intelligence. So we had this thing called top secret Umbra, which is the highest form of intelligence. And I don't know if intelligence really hasn't, because the incredible amount of technology that we've had in the last 10, 12 years, I have no idea what we have. I think that our intelligence is probably incredibly good. And maybe it's, when I was there, it was in its rudimentary form, and now we probably know an awful lot more about what was going on than we did then. But, we had, things probably don't change. I'm sure that there's a general there that wants his briefing every morning, and there were officers there that give it to him. And the people at the Pentagon are, still the same way. The only difference in the Pentagon, and I would say this, when I was there, it was an open building. Anybody could get into the Pentagon. I visited the Pentagon a few years ago, and it was like trying to get into a secret organization, because you couldn't walk in. You had to be part of a tour, and it was off limits, and you had to have a special pass. When I was there, it was just like any other office building.
That brings up a point. We're talking pre-9/11. Do you think the intelligence communities dropped the ball on the attacks on the Twin Towers and the Pentagon and the plane that was downed in Shanksville?
Well, I'm not too sure. Drop the ball is too accurate. But after 9/11, this country was so incensed. Just like that, 19 guys or 25 guys were able to demolish the Twin Towers in New York City and to crash a plane to the Pentagon, and to be responsible for an airline crash in somewhere in Pennsylvania. But we had this country was so incensed at that we decided we've got to get back at somebody.
Sure.
And so we decided to invade Iraq. I don't know why, because Iraq had nothing to do with the 9/11. We did try. We did ask for the Afghanistanis, or the Afghans, to give us Osama bin Laden. They said no, and so we invaded Afghanistan as well. By that time, Osama bin Laden had gone someplace else, Pakistan, I guess. But the Americans aren't really equipped to have any sort of long-term commitment for revenge. We had 9/11, and the Bush administration managed to wipe out the Iraqi government in a matter of weeks, and it took us a while, but we finally did get Osama bin Laden. But the difficulty sometimes with the Americans is they're not willing to have a long-term commitment. They would like to see ISIS eliminated in the next 20 days, but it's not going to happen. And I think it might be a long time. It might be 15 years before we get rid of those guys over there. And at this time, at least we know that the world is with us. I think that everybody, just about everybody except a few radical Muslims out there, are out, see that ISIS is a problem in world stability. And I think that if we can somehow, we're not going to get them by bombing them, because we don't know where they are. And it seems that the longer we stay over there, the more converts they get. It's going to be a very difficult problem, and we'll solve it. But it's going to take a little while, and the American public has to be patient as to how we go about destroying this the menace of ISIS or ISIL. I don't know what the difference is.
Our time is nearly up, Bob, and I can't thank you enough, number one, for coming on the show and talking to us about wills, talking to us about your book that we've been talking about this hour, The General's Briefer. But I'd also like to thank you for your service to your country and to making the world a safer place.
Thank you so much.
Now, what are your final thoughts for the X-Zone Nation tonight, Bob?
The final thoughts for, I didn't hear the last.
For our listeners, whether you want.
I don't. Well, this is. I don't know if I'm speaking to a Canadian audience or an American audience.
You're talking to an international audience.
An international one. I think that a lot is going to depend upon what's going to happen here in the United States in the next month. I think within an hour there's going to be some sort of debate here between the vice presidential candidates. But I think that we'll get through it. It's I think that I've always been an optimist, and I think that the situation isn't going to change all that much, even if a certain candidate gets. I don't like to get political, but if a certain candidate does get in, we'll survive. There's not going to be any huge change in world affairs. I think that a lot of people are getting a little worried about certain individuals getting into power, but I have a great faith in the spirit of the American people and the spirit of Canadian and American, just in all the Western governments. I think that we're not going to be in an impossible situation. And I think that we'll get by. There's nothing more that I can say, and that I can't express any sort of doom prophecies.
Well, that's good.
I think that no matter what happens, we'll be okay.
Bob, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to the next time you join us back here in the X Zone. Until then, be safe, and thank you once again for your service, sir.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. X-Zone Nation, Bob Woolsey was our guest this hour. www.amazon.com/generals-briefer is the book is the link for the General's Briefer. And for Husband in Waiting, it's amazon.com/husband-waiting. Well, that's it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night at 11 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. So until tomorrow night, my friends, as I keep on reminding you, if there's some way you can help someone to make their day a little brighter, make their life a little better, let's do that, because we are a brother's keeper. And always remember to keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.